By popular demand, here it is, which means it's the worst of the CBC for March 23rd, 2022, the show where I watch the CBC so you don't have to. I subjected myself to another hour of that nonsense today. And it confirmed why I kind of had to give myself a mental break from the whole thing. First, there will be a lot more worse of the CBC. I'm just letting you know, in a few weeks after we get back from Miami, the National Telegraph and we have a lot more content coming. I'm very excited about a lot of it. I just don't want to spoil, but don't worry. The Rosemary Barden scale will be continuing. You will not have to watch the CBC. I will still do that for you. There will just be new formats and bigger and better things going forward, and we're just putting it all together. That being said, okay, I'm going to keep the same sort of COVID rules on the, I just can't break down everything they say about Ukraine because it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. The only thing I will point out is they were doing Trump talking points. They were pointing out that Canada doesn't spend 2% of its GDP on NATO and a military budget, as NATO alliances say. So everything Trump said we should do, which is, unleash North American energy, sanction the Nord V2 pipeline, and actually start contributing to NATO, so it's not only America. That was called undermining NATO, and Trump was a traitor for saying that. But once the Russians just rolled into Ukraine again, remember, I was against Russia invading Ukraine in 2014 when Barack Obama let him do it openly, but that wasn't a big deal to the Ukrainian flag in Twitter profile bio people this time around. So now the CBC is pushing Trump talking points and never crediting Trump and not saying that they were wrong. So that's the one thing I'll point out there. Worst covered story of the day outside of that, the Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson hearings. They are, of course, they're doing this thing like the Republicans are questioning a Supreme Court nominee like crazy people. How would they do that? Like completely forgetting the Kavanaugh saga and the Gorsuch saga. And this is just what happens now. But they're pretending that Republicans are insane for asking questions. And this is a Republican thingamajig. Of course, being a black woman who doesn't know what a woman is, that, of course, not addressed. So if she doesn't know what a woman is, she's not the first black person, because Clarence Thomas is already on the Supreme Court, but he's pretty based, so let's never talk about that. But they are, of course, I don't want to say misrepresenting how the hearing is going, even though it's not the wrong words. But again, they're clearly cherry picking on the story and not presenting the arguments that the Republicans are putting up against her. They're saying, they're questioning her about her time as a judge and a public defender. Well, yeah, that's how these things go. So are the Democrats. The Democrats are just saying, you're so amazing. How do you get so amazing and wonderful? Well, I am blah, 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 blah. Whereas the Republicans have said, you are incredibly soft on child pornography and child sex crimes, and you even have writings in law school about being soft on child pornography and child sex crimes. So there's two arguments that the right, let's say, is putting against Justice Jackson here. One, very, very soft on child pornography and child sex crimes. Now, if you want to say everyone's a hypocrite in the U.S. government because there should be an Epstein investigation and that's all, fair enough. I'll listen to that, but that's at least the argument being put forward. The other one is they did not cover her debacle of what's a woman and she doesn't know what a woman is. And to me, that immediately disqualifies her from the Supreme Court. And it's because when she says, I'm not a biologist, I don't know what a woman is, one, she acknowledges that, genetics and biology play into womanhood and what's a man and what's a woman. That is good. But she clearly knows what a woman is. It's an adult human female, for those of you who don't understand. And it's more her inability to say, you know what, this might make a few radicals upset, but it's the right thing and it's the truth. I'll just say it. Right? What a great way to dunk on all the Republicans by saying adult human female. What's the point? Right? If she says that, everyone kind of ignores it. And if there's a few radicals screeching, won't stop her. But it shows that as a Supreme Court justice, will she listen to the truth or will she be held hostage to radical intersectional nonsense? And the answer is, as a Supreme Court justice, she values radical intersectionalist nonsense over truth, and that therefore disqualifies her, in my opinion. So that's the argument put against her. Also, they're not covering the fact that Biden openly said he wants a black woman to be on the Supreme Court. So I'm not saying she's not qualified. She's not a smart person. But it's very clear the Democrats have put her forward expressly because she's a token. And this is expressly tokenism as said by the Democratic Party. So that not being addressed is just a totally, totally dishonest way of framing it. And the biggest omission today is zero mention of the marriage between Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh. And I'm the first one reporting that they might legalize polygamy so they can add Doug Ford to the marriage, because there's a lot of Doug Ford coverage. And like Doug Ford is in such a love fest with the Liberal Party and, environmentalist nonsense and everything he ran against. But that's here, there. So when something contradicts the narrative, like they know that this Liberal NDP coalition is really it's going to destroy the Liberals and the NDP in the vote, because Canada still has a lot of moderates with their heads up their tuchus, who still think the Liberal Party is the moderate people and Conservatives is right and NDP is left, and I like the moderation, and say what you will about these people and the world they live in, but those people still exist in Canada, and I hope they start watching this and read the National Telegraph than watching the CBC, but such is life. So they've just decided that the biggest story in the country, which is the merging and the marriage between Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh, we're just not going to talk about it because it hurts the left-wing party. So we're just going to ignore it. We're going to memory hole this, and we're just never going to say it again. And the line they seem to be taking is, if conservative politicians call it a coalition, they're going to be like, haha, they're so stupid. It's not a formal coalition, because a coalition means you get MPs in the cabinet, and it's more on paper. This is more of an agreement than a coalition. So that seems to be their plan. Is anything that doesn't serve the Liberal Party, they just will not mention at all, because they're the CBC. And because of that, let's do a solid 10 out of 10 on the return to the Rosemary Barton scale of bias. So a solid 10 out of 10 on the return to the show. We'll be doing more episodes like this throughout the weeks because people have asked for it. But just so you know, more stuff is coming. So follow me, follow here, follow National Telegraph, because there will be a lot more content coming next month, and we're just sort of putting that all together. So thanks to everyone who supported. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.